You're tuned in to another episode of The Coaching Lounge with your host, Rebecca Gordon, lead life coach at satellitelifecoaching.com. Listen to interviews with creative thinkers, motivational speakers, models of success, and key people of influence. Tune in, relax, engage, and transform your life now.
I'm Rebecca Gordon. I'm your host today in the Coaching Lounge, and it has been a while since I interviewed someone in this space. The reason is that I've taken a well-deserved break away from the busyness, or I'm not going to say busyness actually, I'm changing that from busyness to the productivity, the productive way of working. And I'm specifically changing that because I've been engrossed in a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller, and he distinctly breaks down the difference between being busy and the importance of focusing on one thing so that you are productive. So I took a break away. I've been absorbing myself in a very lovely self-care and self-preserving moments, I should say. And I'm reintroducing my Coaching Lounge platform. And today I'm really pleased to be joined by a guest who is an advocate herself for self-care and healing. My guest is Boone. Anne is the Chief Healer and the Director of 2-for-1 Healing Centres. We'll find out more about the healing centres and the vision that Anne has for that and how it's evolved over the years. It's important to say that Anne is an NHS approved healing accreditation. And I really just want to get into the interview because as we speak to Anne, we are going to actually learn about what she does, how she does it, the reasons for healing, why it's important, what it exactly is, what it involves, and how Anne's charity, her organisation works, and how you can get involved. So, without further ado, Anne, welcome to the Coaching Lounge.
Wow, Rebecca, thank you very much for the amazing introduction.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
We actually, we met in 2010, 2011, I recall, at an event in London, the T-Harv Ecker event. And I remember the connection, Anne, because it was sort of like a speed business event, wasn't it?
Yes.
Do you remember? Yes. And then
yes.
we had, it must have been probably, just 2 minutes of exchange. And from then we've actually maintained and kept contact. So, hey, that's the power of networking, isn't it?
It certainly is. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let's just talk about from 2010, since we last physically met. What have you been up to, Anne?
Basically, from then onwards, like you already mentioned, I got my NHS accreditation as a spiritual healer. So I had trained as a Reiki healer before. So the NHS accreditation is a 3-year intensive course that not only teaches you on the healing and the energy side, but also how to run the healing business, so how to run your own practice, what to do and what not to do when you're working with medical staff, doctors, and the care team in hospitals and in GP practices. So that is mainly what I've been up to. And on the other side, I have also been involved in corporate work, a technology company that enables the hospitals and governmental agencies, as well as pharmaceutical companies, to reuse clinical and medical data. So our data from the patient records, they can be analyzed, made into statistics. So obviously we don't know who you are and where you are from, and so we can use these statistical data to do medical research. It has already given a couple of cures for cancer. It's been very effective in mental health. So how to change some of the approaches that people had in mental health, just from reading a large volume of data. And so that aspect at some point in time made me realize that we can use a similar cutting-edge technology to prove or disprove once and for all healing and complementary therapies, what great benefit that they can bring for people's health, comfort and well-being, so that healers and other complementary therapies should be back in as a full member of the care team that is looking after patients and other people that need care.
Okay, so you're doing very important work by the sound of it to enable there to be a shift within mainstream healthcare, so that the alternative healthcare, which is working with energies, is recognised, as well as what's going on in doctors' surgeries or in hospitals, etc.
That is correct.
Okay,
so
okay.
Yeah.
Great, okay. So, I must say, I find your manner and your energy very, very therapeutic. So I can imagine all the great results you have, which we'll talk about later on in the interview. But just to say, how did you come into this line of work? I wouldn't imagine it's something that someone just one day decides, this is what I want to do, I want to be a healer. What's your story, Anne?
It's actually the other way around. It took me nearly 35 years to realize that healing is not something that everybody can do. For me, it's quite obvious to see people in need, whether it's they're not feeling very well, or whether it's a real physical pain. So I've always been very, very intuitive ever since I was a child. When people need help, care, and they just want to feel better. So I can give very therapeutic massages. I know where it hurts and where it doesn't. It seems like my hands are sort of automatically they're all automatically guided to where that person needs the most comfort and the most care. And it is only until a friend of mine who's also a healer, invited me to go on a Reiki weekend. So it was just a 2-day course as an introduction. That it all started to make sense. It's like, oh, okay, so this is something that you can channel, that you can control, and that you can work with, and the benefits and the results were absolutely stunning sometimes. But it's the other way around. I've naturally always had this intuitive feeling for my own energy and other people's energies.
Right. Okay.
And
yeah, because I'm just wondering, sometimes people recognise that there's something different about them or unique. Sometimes it takes us, a lot to own up to that as our natural abilities. Did you find this strange, this thing as a young girl growing up and realising, you had these abilities? How did you feel about that?
It did. So sometimes people would people would always come with their troubles and their problems, so they felt they could talk to me, that I could help them, when they were feeling in pain, or whether it was just a mental thing, or whether it was really, pain. I remember a whole group of people standing in the street one day, and there was a lady who'd fallen down, and all her shopping bags were all over the place, her oranges, everything just had just been rolling away, and there was about 40 people that all stood there watching her, and one person even got their phone out and took a picture. I thought, what gosh. Yeah. I'm not supposed to swear probably, but I thought that's exactly what I was thinking.
It's shocking, really, isn't it?
And so I pushed people aside and just said to her, it's like, well, what has happened? So I helped her up. It wasn't really such a big deal. She was more in a shock rather than anything else. So I helped her up. And as I did that, as I was the first person to get to engage with her, three other people started picking up the oranges and putting all her shopping back in the shopping bags. As she sort of, caught her breath, another person accompanied her to go and sit down on a bench. So it was an initial initiative, the shift of energy of this group that was just watching. It wasn't that people didn't want to help, because they did, but it just seemed that everybody was a bit in the same paralyzed way as the lady who had just fallen down.
Yeah.
It does. I tend to look at things differently than other people.
Okay.
I'd like to look inside of people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because actually in our interaction, it is energies that interact, isn't it, really?
Correct.
And, this is probably sometimes what we don't always remember, that, it's not the physical. Yes, we have the physical touch, but really you're engaging with the energy of the person you're associating with. Or I think it's probably correct to say who we choose to allow into our energetic space, because that matters very much, especially, when we're doing business or when we're, in relationships and so forth. So this is something we must think of. So thanks for sharing that, Anne, because, I think it's just important for someone to recognise, actually, if I think I've got some sort of ability or I feel different, to really take some time out and just to try to reconcile with yourself, or what's that about? What do I need to use more or be aware of more about who I am? Mm-hmm. So let's just talk about healing energy then. Your title is Chief Healer. What exactly does this involve, and how do you work with healing energy?
So Chief Healing is a little bit more related to the healing center. So I help out other healers. So I coach. I also help them in their business. So in their practice, mainly then through the charity, to attract the clients, to attract new people who want to come and understand what healing is, through the charity, and also through my own practice. It's a question of giving out information that people can understand, information that people can work with, because it's not always healing energy like electricity is actually invisible, so we can't perceive it with our normal naked eyes. When you stick your fingers in the in the plug, you will be very much aware of electricity. You can actually feel it, you can perceive it, which is a very similar thing to energy, to healing energy. So it's very much there. It powers exceptionally complicated and complex devices. I mean, look at your mobile phone, laptop, all the absolutely amazing things that we have. They're all based on energy, the use of energy, the use of electricity. Same thing for our bodies, animals, plants. Everything is using this life bio energy to grow and communicate and basically live a life.
And this is what in different cultures the Chinese call it qi, and in Africa, some African countries, I think it's called qua, or something around those. So are we talking about that? People might be familiar with those terms, like chi energy, or is it chai energy? What's the correct way to say it, Anne?
So I'm not very familiar with the African cultures,
right?
But in China, exactly like you said, it's the qi, yes, which is the life force or the life energy, and so through breathing exercises. You can obviously, balance yourself, calm yourself down, which is also something that we have to do as healers. We need to have to look after our own well-being, our own balance, and our own health. It's very similar to the breath that is being used in yoga. So the prana, which is also, I believe, a word for life energy. So it has been perceived, so healing has been practiced for probably as long as there are people, and it has basically been called various different names. There has been obviously times where it wasn't really as accepted by the medical establishment or by churches or religious establishments, which is a shame. And so I think we're still recovering a little bit from our sort of move towards science and proof and mathematics and formulas. We haven't achieved, as far as I know, it is very hard to put in a formula and to kind of have these laboratory measurable experiments with healing, because you work on so many different levels. There are so many different factors that the actual complexity of a simple thing as touching somebody and transferring healing energy to balance that person, what actually happens on the back end is extremely complex and can lead very quickly to amazing results. But it's very hard to measure and very, very hard to put into a formula, or very, very hard to put into a mathematical grid or graph. So that is actually a little bit what we're struggling at the moment.
Yeah, I would imagine, very much like coaching when, I intake new clients and I'm explaining to them the expectations, what they can expect and what, the expectations are of the process. And I say, actually, part of this is about trusting the process, because until at the end of the session or through it, you will feel the shift, the difference, and you'll see the results at the end perhaps or during. So really it's about entering something that's unseen, you can't feel it, it's not tangible, and just working with it and trusting it. So yes, I mean, energy, it's just there, and we cannot measure in that capacity unless just to say that we're alive, really. So I hear what you're saying there. Now, just expanding on that, the healing energy, you've mentioned the chi energy, or the prana. There are different healing styles or different techniques, aren't there, for healing? You've mentioned Reiki. Okay, and I must say, I do have a friend and she's invited me to have a Reiki session. And again, because it's one of those things that you have to experience, I need to actually firm up the date with her. But I've always wondered to myself, well, exactly what is this? How does someone become a Reiki practitioner? What's the process there, Anne?
So for a Reiki practitioner, like I said, there are a couple of weekends that you participate with a person, a level 3 practitioner. So it's a person who has been practicing for quite a while, and also has received the. I've never really done the third level, so I can only say what I've read about it and what I've heard from the teacher that I trained with, is that they basically go through an extra set of courses, an extra process to enable them to teach it to other people. Okay. And so it is a type of initiation
right.
where they open up the channels for you to be able to heal.
You see, this is something I've not quite understood myself, because it sounds as if there's an intermediary within the energy process when actually we all have energy. So correct. Yeah, so what would be the reason for having someone else enable the opening of the channels? I mean, is that not something that, say, I could do if I wanted to focus on getting that connection?
Well, it is very much
myself, yeah.
Yeah, well, it is very much what we mentioned, what actually I had to do myself. It was just a fact to discover that this is something that is possible. So it's a bit like you don't know what you don't know until somebody tells you, do you know this? And then you think, well, actually, no, I've never really thought about it. So although I could massage people very well, I could be intuitively asking people, are you sure you're okay? Because, you can tell me. And then sometimes people would just burst out crying. Oh my God, massive problem, something that they just kind of felt they needed to talk about. It's only until I went to this Reiki weekend and you start discussing, what are chakras, sort of the 7 main energy openings in your body that interact with your aura. I perceived auras before, but I never knew that it was called an aura. It's this sort of big, what you mentioned earlier, there's the field that is around us, our energy field. Sometimes, when you're in the underground in London or on buses and everybody's just crammed together, you automatically retract your aura. Yes. You just make yourself smaller, because you don't want to step into other people's private space. But sometimes, like you mentioned before, it can be very uncomfortable if that other person is in a completely different vibration and you just really, all you want to do is just scream and run away. There's nothing wrong with the other person. They're still very nice. They're equally polite. They're equally trying to, be, respectful to your personal space. But sometimes it's like, I just simply, there is something we're in a different vibration here. So yes,
that's the key thing, isn't it? It's the vibration. Yeah, yes, absolutely. Exactly. Okay.
It's a little bit like we said with coaching. Why you need a coach? Most of the things that coaches ask or tell you or the exercise that you need to do, you kind of know all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's good that somebody else says, well, actually, this is a process. Why don't you start with the head, or why don't you start with the feet? Why don't you start with grounding, and work yourself up? Because we're very much into our heads, for example. Everybody knows that we like to think. We're very intellectual. We're very busy thinking. And sometimes we forget to feel, our bellies. Our belly brain, our heart brain, we forget the love. We forget, our own needs and wants that are sitting in the lower part of our body. We forget about our feet to connect them to the nurturing, Mother Earth.
Yes.
It's just visualizing and explaining what you can perceive.
Excellent. Okay. I love the way you've put that across. It makes better sense to me now. So thank you very much. So that's Reiki, and there are some other healing styles and techniques. Can you share with me some of the others, please?
We had so during our 3-year course at the College of Psychic Studies in London, in Kensington. They have been involved in the complementary side of healing, homeopathy. So they offer a wide range of complementary therapies for the last 300 years. So they're one of the oldest centers in the world. Actually, just to understand intuition, to understand energy, to understand how all of these experiences that people have, what they are and whether they're real or not. We have this sort of running joke that when you hear voices inside your head, you'd better go and see a doctor. When you intuitively hear sounds through your ears, then you might be perceived. You can be sort of you can be clairvoyant, or you can be an auditive. You can perceive the sounds more on an intuitive level. So that is a bit of a joke that we had at a college.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And I met somebody once who was a quantum touch practitioner.
Right.
What's quantum touch? How does that differ, or how does that fit into the spectrum of healing modalities?
Yeah, it is one of the trustees of Relief from Pain. She is an expert in quantum touch. It's also based on the life force energy. And the only thing that I remember from the session that she gave me is that you work very much with the energy on the level of the aura. To just kind of rebalance there, and so she said you're more actively involved in what you do. So Reiki, spiritual healing, very much is allowing. So it's the allowing the energy from outside, the energy from outside to go through us as a healer, and then into the patient for the patient to rebalance and use the energy appropriately where the body feels, or where the energetic bodies feel where it's needed. Quantum touch, you are a little bit more proactive apparently, but I'm not a practitioner, so
Right, yes, okay. So we've mentioned it here. I'll put the reference, and then people are at liberty to actually check this out themselves.
yes.
Okay, so Anne, we're actually almost halfway through, and we've not even had a break yet. I hope you're okay to extend the interview for a little while.
Sure, yes.
Okay, because there's so much I want to ask you and talk to you about. One of the important things is that, you've mentioned, we lead, here's the word again, busy lives, we're caught up in an electronic and electrical world. What are some of the common reasons do you find that people come to you and choose to work with you?
So, like attracts like.
Yes.
So people usually, most of the clients that I work with, are people with either quite a public life, people in politics, people, one of the people that I've worked with is a dancer, for a couple of the videos, with Madonna. So it's people who are under a lot of pressure to perform. They're very visible. Everything that they do, social media, everything that they do can and will be used against them. It's people in the corporate world, vice presidents, people running their own businesses. So people who actually are not really allowed to switch off. If you work in a large international organization, weekends are not the weekends. So weekends in the Middle East are often anywhere Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We don't work on the Saturday and the Sundays. People can never really switch off. There's always something. There's always an email. There's always a conference call. There's always a trip, an event, something that needs their attention, a strategy, any type of problem or challenge that they need to face. And so healing very often is the only moment that they have exactly, completely, totally to themselves. So
I find it very interesting. You've mentioned people in the corporate world, high profile people, and it's almost as if, for me in my mind, you imagine these people living, great lives perhaps, and not needing to actually choose such a service as this. And it's also like the likes of Richard Branson or Alan Sugar, who themselves perhaps have coaches, and we would think, okay, they're doing their business, they may not need to tap into the service of coaches. So really what we're saying here, people in those spectrums are very aware of the need and the essential need to actually utilize, the free energy and to work with that. When actually, us here in the normalities of the 9 to 5, etc., we're so busy caught up in it, and we lose ourselves when those who are in the know are actually, taking time out to actually seek support and alternative support. I just find that quite interesting. I don't know about you.
No, it's exactly that. It's being busy is a choice. Being happy is a choice. So when you choose to be happy, you can't be busy.
Yes.
So I specifically do not choose to be busy. I do a lot. There is my own practice. There is the charity. There are a couple of other projects that I'm working on, but I choose not to be busy. And just the fact that you then choose to be happy, satisfied, content, just allows you to be in the present, allows you to be here and now and fully focused on this interview, on the task at hand, on what is required. And so I've actually had the pleasure once of sitting in a meeting with a former business coach of Bill Gates. So it's a gentleman who's been working with Bill Gates when he was still in charge of Microsoft. So he was actually doing another coaching session with a business owner, and I had to give him, I didn't have to, I offered to give him healing because he went through his knee. So he had a knee problem. And in order to be able to continue with the rest of the schedule of the day, I gave him a 15-20 minute healing session during a break so that his knee would stop hurting. But it was very, very interesting to sort of feel that exactly what you've mentioned, that it was almost like we were having a continued healing session for the business. So he would listen. So people would go and talk, he would listen. And at some point, I could feel the same total relaxation and total focus and completely utter presence. And then he would say something as in, but wouldn't it be better to do this? Or have you thought of that? Or what if you could offer your customer this? And then the person would go, wow, that's exactly what I need. That's exactly what I want. Because he stopped people in their tracks and said, let's just focus 100% on exactly the task at hand and then allow for the answer to come.
So through healing, you actually enter a space where you're heightening, your creativity and all the great, wonderful things about you. Really?
Exactly, yeah. And so you can do this actively. Usually when people come for a healing session, they are often almost asleep. So they're in this state of they are still perceiving what's going on. But they have the very, very, very soft, almost, back in the third snoring breath. They feel sometimes people wake up and they or when the session is over, they say like, oh my God, I haven't slept this well for ages. And they've only been there for, 15 minutes, 1 hour maximum. So they feel as if they've had a full night revitalizing deep sleep after this one session, just because we just focus on themselves, on their health, on their well-being. And then the energy goes either once the body is relaxed, the energy then goes into the aura, goes into the different bodies, the different layers of the auras.
Right.
It can work on a spiritual level. It can work on an emotional level. It doesn't necessarily sort of physical expression of pain or discomfort or problem, whatever you want to call it, is very often something that we've experienced mentally and that we've already processed energetically before it actually hits the body.
Fascinating. Okay. So what we are going to do now is take a short break. When we do return, we're going to talk to Anne Boone from it's Relief from Pain charity, isn't it, Anne? That it's called.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. So we'll be speaking with Anne on the return of the break about how to protect your energy, and Anne will be sharing some tips and some strategies for you to help raise the energy of your life force. So please stay tuned. We will be back after this very short break.
We support your transformation. Stay tuned for more engaging discussion after this short break.
Think big for a moment. If you could create your best life, how would this look? What if, in just 30 minutes, you had a plan of action to get closer to your dream? Make the impossible possible and claim your free session today. Visit www.satellitelifecoaching.com now.
You're tuned in to the Coaching Lounge podcast with Rebecca Gordon. Find out more about us by visiting satellitelifecoaching.com.
My name is Rebecca Gordon and I'm joined by Anne Boone, who is the Chief Healer from Relief from Pain charity. And we're having an amazing discussion on the importance of healing energy, why it's very beneficial for your health, not just for your health, for your business and for your overall wealth. So we're actually distinguishing how healing works as opposed to, or perhaps in conjunction with, as Anne's mentioned, mainstream services, but working with someone who is expert and qualified to support you energetically can actually bring very good benefits that filter out into the rest of your life. And Anne has just recently mentioned not just your physical level of yourself, but your aura, your energetic, overall energetic level. So, Anne, let me just ask you then. We're talking. I want to talk now about protecting your energy. I have a couple of books actually. I can see one of them on my bookshelf, and it's called. Can I see the title there? Not quite, but it's actually one of the books is relating to energy vampires.
Right.
Okay, and first of all, I'd like you to give an explanation on the term energy vampires, if you can. And then to share why it's important to protect your energy and how to do that.
Yeah. So, I find it a very disturbing word, energy vampire.
Right. It's the title of the book.
Yes. As a child, I used to be really scared. I did not like any of the the scary movies and horror movies and things. It simply was not my thing. So
I'm sorry I mentioned it.
No, it's absolutely fine. It's basically it just comes back to like one of the teachers that I had. She just said, well, energy vampires or not, we, especially as healers, as intuitive people, we are responsible for our own energy, and we are responsible for what it is that we do. So if you allow yourself to be a doormat, whether in a relationship or in an energetic relationship, then that is actually something that we have to decide not to do. We have to decide ourselves to stand up for ourselves, to stand up for our own energy. I have actually learned in the course of some of the healing sessions that I did and the courses that I followed, to stand up and say no. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. It's like it's not convenient for me at 11 o'clock at night to give you a healing session because I am tired and I have to do, I have to work tomorrow in the morning, or I have to write something, or it is not convenient for me. So no, I'm really sorry, but I cannot do this. Can we reschedule? Can we, for example, do this on another day?
So what you're saying, we actually do need to take a stand and not give our energy away.
It is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Whether or not you are being asked, oh, could you please drive me? I'm stuck somewhere, because I don't know, I had one more drink in the pub and now I'm stuck. So could you please come and get me? Most parents would actually recognize that from their children. You don't want to say no at that point in time.
Yes.
But sometimes we should.
It's about helping others to be responsible for how they use their energy, isn't it? And not relying on someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and it's not just so obviously when it is too much, when you feel exhausted, what we do as healers, get a healing session. So that is one of the things that is really nice about the healing clinics that we do for relief from pain, and that there are other people that do regular healing clinics, is that as healers you can work on each other. So you can give each other a relaxation, extra energy. You can rebound, because we're only people. So we are also, as a healer, you're not perfect, you're not exceptional. We may be more aware of what's going on, but we're very much in our physical body's part of life. We also get tired. We also get exhausted. We also get upset. If we don't get proper service by our friends or partners.
Yeah, I mean, I share that sentiment. I mean, as I mentioned in the introduction, I took time out to have a self-care sabbatical. But it also is that any practitioner, we are our own first clients. So, in order to help others and serve others, we actually have to serve ourselves, first and foremost. So I very much agree with you there. So you've mentioned something I just want to expand a little bit more on, which is, let me check. Yes, which is about recognizing when your energy, and I'm going to change the term now, is being zapped. So you mentioned one of the ways that indicators is actually you feel very tired in the presence of someone. Is there anything else that someone can be attuned to or pay attention to recognise that their energy is being zapped?
So I mean, there are two things. So it's about allowing to be zapped. So once you become aware of, I mean, we all know these people who never have any money. They're always late. There's always, whatever problem. So you schedule to go out, and they can't make it for somebody because they still have to have a shower. They're just not very well organized. That is annoying and frustrating. Energetically, it makes us impatient. It knocks us off of balance. So sometimes you just have to say, well, I'm sorry, but I will drive there myself, or I will make my own way to the event. If you need a shower or whatever problem that you need to deal with, just make your own way. It's again and energetically you do the same thing. So you perceive people wanting to take your energy. You can sense that, you can perceive that, you can feel that, and it's more of a matter to say no. In a very similar way as you would say no to somebody, like, no, I don't want to go out because I feel tired, or no, I can't help you because I'm not feeling well myself, or no, I can't lend you any money because I need to pay my own bills. Whatever people come and ask you, it's the same as being firm. We do exercises, so we do exercises to ground ourselves, to make sure that we're very firmly, balanced on both our feet.
Can I just ask you that question in a short while, because I just want to explore a little bit more about grounding, how it works, and exactly. Sure. Yeah, so I'll ask you that in a moment. But just to mention here, you've mentioned some very important things about creating boundaries, let's say, okay? And what comes to mind for me is today is a great example, and it's happened in the past, where people, and we said we live in an electrical, world now. Yes. Someone joined me or entered me into a WhatsApp group. And, I think this person must have, joined up hundreds of people because there were so many people who left. But I thought, let me just see what the thread is on this group. And I read a few of the messages, and immediately I just felt from reading the text messages, my energy, it's like spiking and being invaded. And I just thought to myself, well, actually, I know that this is not something I want to be a part of. Let me just delete it. But I think it's also important to say that it's not just about the people we meet. It might be the things we listen to on the radio. It might be what's on the TV. It might be, somebody somewhere where we are at physically. So those things are very important to pay attention to in terms of interference with our energy. What are your thoughts on that?
It's exactly. I mean, you're spot on, Rebecca. I very seldom watch the news, read the newspapers, because I prefer to focus on the positive side of things. I mean, I don't put my head in the sand. I have traveled extensively. I know what it's like to be hungry. I've seen people literally drop dead from starvation. The world is not a very nice place often. On the other hand, there are so many beautiful people who do such amazing work. They volunteer, they look after other people, they make sure that the place is better, that the world gets a better place for everybody. When you focus on that, you immediately feel energized, you immediately feel happy, you immediately feel more content. When you shift your focus from buying, more, saying like, you know what, I have enough food, I have, a home that is warm, that I feel safe in. I can share it with, those people that I like. We're having a really good time. It's a lot of fun. It's about choosing again to be happy and to be content. And like you mentioned earlier, steer away from negativity, steer away from those people that you actually don't really want to be with.
Great. Okay. So self-protection.
If I can't go into the grounding and the protecting, then,
well,
then
no,
it's a question of no. I don't want this. Please go away.
Well, we are going to do that now. I just wanted to actually make the point, really, that it's also these devices. When we're on the internet or we get an email come in or WhatsApp, then those things we need to pay attention to as well. So thanks very much.
It's invading. It's invading in our space. Yeah. It can alter. It can change your vibration. It's the same thing like when you drink alcohol. I mean, I'm not saying you can never drink any alcohol or have a cigarette or a lovely ice cream or anything else, but it's also the foods. They carry vibrations. They carry nourishment, and so when you drink a lot or when you do substance abuse, when there's that also makes your energy. And actually, sometimes it's as bad as dust in an aura. So any alcohol abuse or any drug abuse lingers in both the body, but also in the body. So you can sometimes feel, you can perceive anesthetic, which is actually a good thing. So if people need an operation, then you would want to have anesthetic for an operation, but that sometimes stays in the aura for up to 10 years.
Wow!
So it stays in there for a very, very, very long time. And I can only sort of describe it as a sort of a very fine powdery dust that remains in the aura, and if you don't cleanse it, it does have a lowering, a heavier vibration in your aura. So you will eventually, it will affect your mood, it will affect your mind, it will affect how you feel.
Interesting.
It's all connected.
Yes. Okay. Yep. And now, Anne, if you can share some grounding strategies. We're going to touch on the grounding strategies just before we go to the break. And then after the break, we're going to talk about your charity, the work you do, and let people know how they can find out about that. So grounding then, what is it and how does it work and how can someone do this?
Yeah, so the holistic approach is we just have to be balanced, and so the best example that people give is out of a tree. So everything below the navel, should be the roots, should be the grounding of the tree into the nurturing earth, where they can find water, where they can find all sorts of nutrients, and then the top part of the body, so everything above the navel, are the branches that actually reach out for the sky. And so the heart very often is one of the centers where the energy from the nurturing energy from the ground, and then the heavenly energy, as sometimes people call it, just get mixed, and that is also what you use then through your arms and your hands to heal a person. So that is when you are balanced. When you've been for a walk. You feel happy, you feel content, you feel your feet, your head is clear, you can you smile, you laugh, you're happy. There are certain exercises, but when we especially when there's a lot of people, again there's a lot of interference from electrical devices, but also from other people, from other auras and other thoughts. In cities, big cities like London or Manchester,
and
it is important. And Birmingham, anywhere where there's lots of people.
Yes. Okay.
It is important that again we are aware of this, and that we take the time to go for a walk, that we take the time to come down from our busy head with an email and I've got to do this and I need to call that person and I need to, that we come down into our body. Mm-hmm. And that we take the time to reconnect and relax.
Right. And that is beautiful. I read somewhere the actual, I think it was Dr. McCullough, in fact, who spoke about the... you're familiar with Dr. McCullough?
Yes.
Yes. He posts some great stuff, some fascinating insights on health and wellness. But what Dr. McCullough said was that it's very important that, the reason for touching a tree, if you like, and taking your shoes off and touching the bare grass, the earth, is because it balances the electrical energy within the body, he said.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is the key thing. Otherwise, like you've got the neurons and all these different things that just zap around the body. But by touching your ground, your foot on the ground, touching the tree, then you're actually, that's the connection there with the core earth and balancing the electrical energy in the body.
Yeah. I'm not a scientific person. I'm not an engineer, so
right. No. But I think
I can feel it. So usually when you touch a tree or when you sort of have your feet on, when you're very busy, everything goes up in the chest.
Yes.
You have very shallow breath and you run, and sometimes your vision is blurred from busyness.
Yes.
So when you slow down, your breathing goes deeper into the body and you feel more relaxed, and everything just becomes clearer. Everything just becomes lighter as well.
Yes.
So it's a balanced and if it's in a yes, I can see that. It's a rebalancing of an electromagnetic field.
That's right. Yes. I mean, it wasn't until like you, I feel it.
Yes.
But it wasn't until I read, the mechanics of it that I thought, wow, this is what I'm feeling then.
Yes.
So it put things into a great perspective for me.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm thoroughly enjoying our conversation, Anne, and I'm going to just have a short break and we'll be back on the other side to find out specifically more about Relief from Pain charities, where you work and how people can get in touch with you. Okay, we'll be back very soon.
You're tuned in to the Coaching Lounge podcast with Rebecca Gordon. Find out more about us by visiting satellitelifecoaching.com.
This is the Coaching Lounge, and my guest today is Anne Boone, the chief healer, and many more things I would imagine. A great, fabulous woman who's doing a lot of work to support people in their business, in their practices as healers as well. So we're going to continue our conversation with Anne to find out more about her charity. But before we do that, I just want to read here a Native American prayer. O Great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I come before you, one of your children. I am small and weak. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty, and make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made, my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise, so that I may know the things you have taught my people, the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. I seek strength, not to be superior to my brothers, but to be able to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me ever ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so that when life fades as a fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. And that's a Native American prayer by Chief Yellowhawk. I love that, Anne. What are your thoughts on that? It is, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Yes,
It is,
yes. Okay.
Very nice.
And, sometimes we are our greatest enemy. But what we're learning today in this conversation is actually one of the best things we can do for ourselves is just stop for a moment, take time out, and just work on restoring and energizing your energy. So, tell me about Relief from Pain charity, Anne.
Relief from Pain charity is, as the word says, it's founded actually to relieve people's pain, physical pain, whether it's chronic, from chronic illnesses, mental, emotional, and also ultimately spiritual. Reason why I founded it was actually in honor of my best friend, person I spent a lot of time with at university and later, who then, in a depression and other circumstances, on the first anniversary of my father's death, committed suicide.
Oh gosh.
The accumulation of both my father and him and some other less favourable circumstances in my life resulted for myself to also collapse. So now I realise, after I've worked with people with extreme who go through extreme stress, like grief or any other of these circumstances, that the aura actually collapses inside the body, and that is what causes this shock. So that is actually a shock. It's the aura, the energy that collapses completely inside the body, and that leaves us numb, feeling numb. No energy. You don't feel like doing anything. You're just numb, basically. You're dead without being. Being physically alive, if you understand.
Yes, I've got you. Yes, I see. Okay, so those catalytic events actually created this great service, really. And what makes your charity different from all other charities in promoting healing and research?
So the healing is, I believe, very similar to other charities and other organisations are doing. So they provide the healing energy, whether it's Reiki, quantum touch, pranotherapy. So there's a lot of different names and a lot of different aspects to it. I believe that it's one of our tasks to also inform people that it exists, to inform people about the benefits. From my corporate career, I've been sort of uniquely positioned that I deal with a lot of medical staff, a lot of hospitals, board of directors, and cutting edge technology that can really help healthcare and healthcare providers to have more insight in what exactly it is that they do in terms of care. So it's a technology, software side of things. And what I would like to do is marry both of those to use the clinical and medical data from the patient records, from the doctor's records, in a legal and appropriate way, to understand what exactly the benefits are and what exactly happens when you give a person who's ill healing. It speeds up the recovery. It keeps them happier. Under the circumstances. So that is actually what I would like to understand, so that we can start by proving, if you like, the efficacy of the complementary therapies.
So that sounds great. How
Yes.
receptive is it at the moment, amongst the people you speak to who are in the traditional mainstream healing, like medicine and so forth?
Yeah.
Yes.
So some of the doctors that I've worked with, doctor, psychiatrists, and medical experts, they've been telling me that doctors, because they are highly qualified, they're highly trained, they're most of the time very intelligent as well. When they see an opportunity, when they see something that works, they were the first to use the telephone in their practices. They were the first to use automobiles in their work. They're also the first people to actually use iPads in the hospitals, because it just makes them so much more efficient, and they can work a lot quicker. With less mistakes, when they're actually using, electronic, when they can make notes electronically rather than sort of telling a nurse or something or scribbling something on a piece of paper. So they are always, first adopters, if I can sort of use that term. I strongly believe that once healers will use the medical data, will actually meet the medical staff on their terms in their territory, that the cooperation will be a lot quicker and a lot easier.
I see. Okay. And
just talking to a doctor about the healing lights and sparkly Christmassy, but it's simply, sometimes when I hear myself, I just think like, I mean, if I was listening to myself, I would think, you know what,
let's just get the straight jacket out right now, shall we?
Exactly. Would you like a bid? I mean, it's and I can completely understand that. I've had the conversation with an IT director who does not believe in healing energy at all. He can explain to me exactly how these things, the mobile phone earphones that you stick to, so they use your bioenergy. There is no battery or anything in it. So he's perfectly happy with that. That can work because it's an electronic device that you stick to your head that uses your own body energy. However, he refuses to accept that when I touch him with my body energy, that I can influence him.
Right, I see, yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. I mean, I remember when I had an Indian head massage, and, that was lovely. But after that, I could see the colours of the aura. So, going through the experience, you do sort of like resonate with what you're saying. But I suppose the analogy is like a car, really, isn't it? Where you've got the wheels, you've got the steering wheel, and it's all the hard stuff that people can see because it's there. But unless you actually experience the luxurious leather seats and the other things that make the car run superbly, which you can't see, they're under the bonnet, it's hard to sort of like get that connection. But I do know that quite recently mindfulness is being advocated now within the health service. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there is some, some sort of recognition. So hopefully there'll be greater recognition of the essential basics that need to be recognised when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah, because it is mindfulness. My sister is she's a physiotherapist. She does not really believe in healing because she can't really see it. She knows it is beneficial. That people that I practice with, they feel much better, whether it's placebo or not. So obviously, she as a medical, as part of a medical care team, she can't really say what happens, nor can I, unfortunately. But she did mention that mindfulness, she's using that with her patients as well. Is actually improving, it speeds up the recovery and speeds up. So she works with people who've been in accidents, who can't walk, who need to, learn to reuse their limbs, after accidents. And the way she described it, it's the focus of a person on that particular limb or on that particular part of your body, and it's very much like self-healing. It's just sending energy to your hand or to that part of the body that you need to be working with, relaxing the muscles.
Yes.
It's when she was describing, it's like, well, that's kind of what I do when somebody lays down on a bed.
So could you share with us then what success stories can you tell us about?
I remember I wasn't practicing very long, and I was working with a lady who she's got brittle bones, so she osteoporosis, problems with her back, and unfortunately she also had an accident that resulted that her left foot, knee, and hip was completely shattered. So she had a lot of operations, a 3-year recovery. And just for, because I was nice and wonderful and very enthusiastic, I was like, oh, I can help you. Why don't you just sit down and let me just put my hands on your shoulders, and I'm just going to make you all better. So at some point, her husband comes home earlier than expected. So she opens her eyes. He looks at me, what are you doing? He looks at, what are you doing? And before I know it, she actually stands up, and he looks at her and his mouth almost falls over, and he says, "What did you do?" And I was like, "Oh my God, what is that?" And he says, she's standing up straight. And I was thinking, right, okay. And your point being, it was the first time after she'd gone through that process of recovery after, her so-called 3-year revalidation in a clinic, that she was able to stand up straight.
Wow.
After half an hour.
And
so I kind of looked at her thinking, it's true.
So with her, you went back for subsequent visits and subsequent treatments, did you? Or was that enough?
I'm still working with her.
You're still working with her, yeah.
The bones. She obviously she was in her late 60s.
Right.
She's in her 70s, late 70s now. I wish I could do magic and say, right, I'm going to be 60 and woohoo.
Yeah, but nevertheless, a great improvement that has really improved the quality of her life.
Yes, she chooses not to take. So she sometimes, on a couple of so when she receives a healing session, usually the day after and the day after that. She either chooses to reduce her pain, her prescription painkillers, and sometimes she doesn't even take any painkillers at all. Okay. So the healing session, the 1-hour healing session, allows for her not to take painkillers.
Wow, that's brilliant. Okay, so Anne, where can people come to you? Where are the healing centres? I know you've got a couple. Are they both in the UK? Are they?
The healing centre in the UK is currently in Maidenhead, where I live. So it's convenient for me.
Yes. Okay. So people can physically attend that centre there, yes?
Yes, so they can come and physically attend either a one-to-one session with myself or any of the other healers. And then we also do once a month, we have a clinic that people can come and enjoy a 15 to 20 minute free session. It's a walking clinic, but we prefer people to book so that we can make sure that we can accommodate everybody. Because we can't sort of sit here till 3 o'clock in the morning. Again, boundaries.
Absolutely. So that's once a month then?
That's once a month, every third Thursday of the month.
Okay.
There is a walking clinic.
Okay, and the other centre?
So the other centre is in Belgium, where I'm originally from.
Okay.
And so I basically travel, once or twice a month. I travel back to Belgium, and then I just kind of work with people back there to help them.
Yeah, and I know you've got visions to expand the centres.
Yes, so that is the vision for the charity is just to have a healer available in every NHS hospital. Yes. So for people who choose, who would like to have healing, that it is also available as part of the NHS care team. Mm-hmm. 2 medical research projects, so that we can actually use clinical and medical data to prove or disprove the efficacy of a treatment, whether it's healing or complementary therapy or even a medical treatment. So you can use exactly the same method to prove the efficacy of any kind of treatment that people can receive. Mm-hmm. We'd like to have more centres, international locations as well, because there are certain climates. I work with quite a few patients with multiple sclerosis, and it just turns out that Italy, believe it or not, is one of the best climates, to combat actually their chronic pain. So they have a lot of pain, and so the mild to warm climate, sort of from mid-Italy, Adriatic Sea is a perfect holiday destination. So
interesting
research, yes.
Excellent. That would be lovely to attend there for healing, So remote healing, is that something that you do, Anne?
Yes, most certainly. So it's a remote healing or distant healing, which is even further from being so legally at the moment. It's not accepted because it doesn't exist, because it's very hard to prove.
Yes.
Military, remote vision, remote viewing. The military, there's been a lot of research that has been done, great results. but it's so hard to measure, and it's so hard to create those laboratory circumstances, as in 1 2 3 1 2 3.
Yes.
It's 1 700 120, and because we're working with people in situations in a world that constantly changes, it's just very, very hard to get these circumstances identical enough
Okay.
for science to accept them. So that is a little that is a big challenge.
Yeah, so some limitations there for the
Correct.
Yes, okay. So let me just ask you very quickly then before we move on to your contact details. I know that you've had some fundraising events in the past. Is there anything in the pipeline?
We are looking at the moment to do a couple of larger events. So I'm working with the trustees and the volunteers. And I would love to have more volunteers. I can just quickly slip that in.
Yes, we can talk about that. So we're going to talk about that as well. Yes.
Who can do fundraising, so that will be absolutely great. So we're thinking of an do come but don't attend event.
Okay. Don't attend.
Do come but don't attend.
Okay.
Because we're not busy.
Exactly.
But we want to focus on our own time. So rather than traveling, we're going to pin a date in the in the calendar, where people can just can from the comfort of their own home or wherever they are, to sort of virtually attend.
Okay, that's
I'm
great.
going to dress up and take a nice picture of myself and post it. Right. So we're actually understanding what medium, Facebook or Instagram, or what the best medium would be to get to have a get together that we can share information and exchange maybe some messages. So we're trying to we're evaluating at the moment what kind of social medium would be the best for that. So
I'll definitely be interested in that. I mean, and that is a great use of technology. So therefore, the limitations are meeting physically, but if we can use technology to meet, through the internet, through Skype or through some other platform, then you still can get your gathering and use your support. So please keep me involved with that. And so for people who want to find out more about what you do or volunteer with Relief from Pain charity, what can they do? What are the options?
So we would love to have people helping out, raising awareness via social media. So use their own Facebook page or Twitter or Instagram or any medium that their preference, just to kind of retweet or spread the word further, especially letting people know when they've received healing, how beneficial, what had happened, and how it's actually worked for them. So that is one aspect. We love to have people, on the premises. So I know it's Maidenhead surrounding areas. We're about 40 miles from centre of London. There's train connections. Who want to help out with events, welcoming people for the healing clinics, registering other healers, so the more sort of day-to-day administrative tasks, and then fundraising. So if you've got great ideas, then we'd love to hear about any event that you'd like to do, or sort of any activity to raise more money. So these are the three types of volunteers that we're currently looking for.
Okay, and who are the patrons of the charity? Is there anyone that we might know? Or?
At the moment, that is also. I really would like to have somebody like Angelina Jolie, for example, who has been receiving healing. I know that Her Majesty the Queen, she receives healing on a regular basis. So we are, in our network, inviting people and connecting with big names.
I mean, Princess Diana was very much into that herself, wasn't she?
She exactly, yeah. So it is also, it is always a little bit. It is very much connected to people's health and well-being. So we as healers, obviously, we have the same privacy. We have to respect medical data, people's it's the same like any doctor or people in a care environment. We have to respect people's privacy. So it proved a little bit more difficult than I anticipated.
Okay, yes, I've got you. I understand. Yes. Okay. So on your website, I know that you have a free, is it a report or a document that people can access?
Yes.
So can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So there's blogs that people can register for. So we blog a couple of times a month. There are some reports that you can download, do's and don'ts before you come out to the healing session. There's lots of information that people can register for, and also when you'd like to receive healing. We do Wednesday afternoon and Thursday afternoon. People can register for distant healing, or every third Thursday, people can actually physically come. So you can register via the website to come and book your session. As I said, it is free, or people can donate something if they'd like, but it's just for administrative, practical purposes that there's not 100 people outside waiting.
Okay, so
that we can accommodate everybody. So it's just hard to turn people away if you've come all the way.
Absolutely, yes. So how can audience members be in touch with you, Anne?
So you can go to the website. So it's www.relieffrompain.org. My contact details are on the website. So email address ann@relieffrompain.org, and there is also a mobile number there. So for the UK, it's 07733 267
Okay, and you're on Twitter and Instagram as well. I've seen your great posts.
Thank you.
Great.
So by all means, you can also tweet, leave a message on Instagram, and we have a Facebook page as well that people can just. It's an open page, so people can just join, leave messages, and I think then you get a direct message to me and Maurice Boone on Facebook as well. I believe.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, Anne, we have gone over time, but actually it was well worth it because...
Thank you.
Yeah, this sort of discussion, you can't just contain because it's about energy, you know what I mean, and that is expansive. So we've learned so much about the importance of making sure your energy is vibrant, it's clear, how Anne can help that to happen, and what we need to do to actually create boundaries so that we are making good use of our energy and protecting it, if you like. So it's been amazing, Anne. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What are your parting words? What's the nugget of gold that you can share with our listeners today in the Coaching Lounge, Anne?
It was a couple of days ago. I read somewhere there are the two most important days of your life is the day that you're born and the day that you find out why. And so when I founded Relief from Pain, I knew why.
Well, I mean, that's amazing because you shared the situations that created you to found this. And really, the message there is, sometimes we think, we're in a dark place, a difficult situation. But actually, if we see the bigger picture, then it's what can come out of this, what's the purpose of this, and make it meaningful, really. So that is very important. There's always another route, another channel, another road through, and your work helps people to tap into that much more. And that's through your experience, yes. So, as Steve Jobs said, it's about connecting the dots, isn't it?
Yep, very much.
Okay, well, Anne Boone, Chief Healer from Relief from Pain Charity. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a great interview. I've really enjoyed your company.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Rebecca. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning into the Coaching Lounge. Join us next time for more insightful interviews with inspiring guests. You can hear previous shows on SoundCloud by searching for Satellite Life Coaching. We're always interested to hear your feedback and topic suggestions, so don't hesitate to email us on info@satellitelifecoaching.com.